Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Do you need help? We're on the record. Good morning. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission. This is case number 9681 with regard to Delmarva Power and Light Company's application for an electric multi-year plan. This is our settlement hearing. We will begin by taking appearances of the four parties, beginning with the utility.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Kim Curry, representing Delmarva Power. I'd also like to enter the appearance of Ann Bancroft, Vice President and General Counsel at PHI, Matt Seegers, Assistant General Counsel at PHI, Taylor Beckham, Assistant General Counsel at PHI, and also joining us today is Jordan Griffin. He is an intern in the Exelon Legal Department. Some of his time will be spent supporting PHI, and he is a second-year student at American University Law School.
Thank you, Ms. Curry. Mr. Griffin's name is on the record. Is Mr. Griffin here today? Welcome. Staff counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Annette Garofalo on behalf of Commission staff. With me today is Hunter Davis, and I'd also like to enter the appearances of Peter Wilson and James Greger.
Office of People's Counsel.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Nikki Wiggins on behalf of Office of People's Counsel. I'd also like to enter the appearance of Michael Sammartino and Nicole Zeichner.
Walmart.
Yes, good morning, Chairman. Barry Naum from Spillman, Thomas & Battle, representing Walmart, Inc.
Thank you. I expect today will be entirely procedural. I expect that the parties will stipulate to the authenticity of each other's testimony, and I don't see the need to have any live witnesses testify today. We did issue a notice on October 7th outlining the procedural schedule that will take us from today through the issuance of the Commission's order in December. Before we begin with review of the evidence, are there any preliminary matters that we should address? Seeing none, we do have some certificates and testimony to enter and mark today. I'll turn it to Ms. Curry to begin.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to be entering really four categories into evidence today. The certificates of publication, our testimonies, this will be our direct and our rebuttal. Our witnesses sponsored certain portions of the supporting data and MYP filing requirements, and I have that I'm going to be entering into evidence. And also the filing we made on October 21st that has our corrections to the witness's testimony. All right, I will start with DPL Exhibit Number 1. This will be the certificates of publication that provide notice of the filing and the pre-hearing conference that was dated June 15th, 2022. And I'm going to mark them all for identification and then enter them into evidence at the end. I'd like to mark for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 2, the certificates of publication providing notice of the evening public hearing. That's dated September 13th, 2022. I'd like to mark for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 3, the direct testimony of Elizabeth M.D. O'Donnell, dated May 19th, 2022. I'd like to mark for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit 4, the rebuttal testimony of Elizabeth M.D. O'Donnell, dated September 19th, 2022. I'd like to mark for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 5, the direct testimony of Philip S. Barnett, dated May 19th, 2022. I will mark for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 6, the rebuttal testimony of Philip S. Barnett, dated September 19th, as corrected on September 22nd, 2022. I'd like to mark for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 7, the direct testimony of William Sullivan, dated May 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 8, the confidential rebuttal testimony of William Sullivan, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification the public rebuttal testimony of William Sullivan, dated September 19th, 2022, and that's going to be Exhibit Number 9. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 10, the direct testimony of Moreland D. Belazard, dated May 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 11, the rebuttal testimony of Moreland Belazard, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 12, the direct testimony of Ekaterina Efimova, dated May 19th, 2022, as corrected on July 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 13. That's the direct testimony of J.C. Zeminski, dated May 19th, 2022. Marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 14, the rebuttal testimony of J.C. Zeminski, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 15, the direct testimony of Kenneth J. Barcia. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 16, direct testimony of Michael T. Normand, dated May 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 17, the rebuttal testimony of Michael T. Normand, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 18, the direct testimony of Peter R. Blazunas, dated May 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification the rebuttal testimony of Peter R. Blazunas. This is going to be Exhibit Number 19, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 20, the direct testimony of Adrian M. McKenzie, dated May 19th, 2022. Marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 21, the rebuttal testimony of Adrian M. McKenzie, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 22. This is the direct testimony of Mark K. Warner, dated May 19th, 2022, as corrected on July 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 23, the confidential rebuttal testimony of Mark Warner, dated September 19th, 2022. I'm marking for identification the public rebuttal testimony of Mark K. Warner, dated September 19th, 2022, and that's Exhibit Number 24. And those are direct and rebuttal testimonies. Nope, let me do that now. Now I'm going to enter the public versions of the MYP filing requirements and the supporting data that our witnesses sponsored in their testimony. And I'd like to mark that exhibit number, Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 25. I also have confidential versions of the supporting, of the MYP filing requirements that I am marking as Exhibit Number 26. And again, these were sponsored by our witnesses in their direct and rebuttal testimonies. I'm marking for exhibit identification Exhibit Number 27, and that is the corrections to the Delmarva Power witnesses' testimony, which we filed on October 21st. And finally, I'd like to mark for identification Exhibit Number Delmarva Power Exhibit Number 28, and that is the settlement testimony of Elizabeth M. D. O'Donnell. And I'd like to move all of those into evidence.
DPL Exhibits Number 1 through DPL Exhibit Number 28 inclusive are marked, so marked. Do any parties object? Seeing no objection, Delmarva Exhibits Number 1 through 28 are moved into evidence.
I have one last exhibit. It's a joint exhibit, and that's going to be the partial settlement agreement that I'm going to mark as Joint Exhibit Number 1.
So marked as Joint Exhibit Number 1.
And I'd like to move that into the record.
Seeing no objection, Joint Exhibit Number 1 is moved into evidence. Anything else, Ms. Curry?
That is it.
Thank you. We'll turn to Commission staff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff would like to stipulate into evidence Exhibit 1, the direct testimony of Kevin Mosier. This is a corrected exhibit. It was 5 pages of text, and it was one exhibit. It was filed on Friday, but the correction had been filed about 2 weeks earlier. It's the only correction that staff is entering into testimony. And we'd ask that be entered as Staff Exhibit 2. Exhibit 1. For Staff Exhibit 2, the direct testimony and exhibits of Roger F. Austin. And as Staff Exhibit, we were going to enter as Exhibit 2C his proprietary version of the same testimony, unless you'd like us to just continue with the numbering as Ms. Curry did.
We could use the staff abbreviation confidential C.
I'd ask that you receive into evidence, I'm proposing to enter into evidence the direct testimony and exhibits of Jamie A. Smith, and as Exhibit 3C, the proprietary version of his testimony and exhibits. It's really, the testimony is the same. There are 3 confidential exhibits. Staff would ask that Exhibit 4, the direct testimony and exhibits of Mark Riley, there's a public version. That would be Exhibit 4, and Exhibit 4C, which is the proprietary version of that testimony. Exhibit 5, direct testimony and exhibits of Drew M. McAuliffe. Staff Exhibit 6, rebuttal testimony of Drew M. McAuliffe. Exhibit 7, direct testimony of Brett Sproul. Exhibit 8, which is the direct testimony of David Hoppick. And Exhibit 9, the rebuttal testimony and exhibits of David Hoppick. And then, in addition, we have testimony in support of the settlement. We propose that be numbered as 1-settlement.
I'm sorry, Ms. Garofalo, the last item, instead of marking as Staff Exhibit 10,
It
is...
could be Staff Exhibit 10, but we just wanted to be clear that it dealt only with the settlement. It does not really deal with the case in chief, except to the extent it's settled.
Correct. Okay, let's mark that as Staff Exhibit 10, which is the settlement testimony. Thank you. We'll turn to Office of People's Counsel.
Thank you. OPC is requesting to mark for identification the following. As OPC Exhibit 1, the direct testimony and exhibits of David Efren. As OPC Exhibit 2, an errata to the direct testimony of David Efren filed on September 23rd, 2022. As OPC Exhibit 3, the supplemental testimony of David Efren. OPC Exhibit 4, the public direct testimony of Courtney Lane. OPC Exhibit 4C, the confidential direct testimony of Courtney Lane. OPC Exhibit 5, the public direct panel testimony of Ron Nelson and Jorge Camacho, plus exhibits. Exhibit 5C, the confidential direct panel testimony of Ron Nelson and Jorge Camacho, plus exhibits. OPC Exhibit 6, the direct testimony of Kevin O'Donnell, plus exhibits. As OPC Exhibit 7, the rebuttal testimony of Kevin O'Donnell, plus exhibits. And as OPC Exhibit 8, the direct testimony of Melissa Whited and exhibits. And we ask that OPC 1 through 8, including 4C and 5C, be moved into the evidentiary record.
What about,
Excuse me, Your Honor, staff also asked that our exhibits that were marked be entered into evidence.
they haven't been marked yet. We'll get back to you in a minute, Ms.
All right.
Ruffalo. With respect to Office of People's Counsel's settlement testimony, have you marked that?
Yes, sir. Supplemental testimony was OPC Exhibit 3. Sorry, I just...
I'm sorry. All right. Everybody else had it at the end.
Yeah, sorry.
Number 3. Okay. OPC's exhibits 1 through 8 are so marked. Any objections? Seeing none, those exhibits are moved into evidence. Ms. Garofalo, your staff exhibits number 1 through 10 are so marked. Seeing no objection, staff exhibits 1 through 10 are moved into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Naum.
Great, thank you, Your Honor. Walmart would ask that the commission mark for identification as Walmart Exhibit Number 1, the direct testimony and exhibits of Alex J. Cronauer, which was filed with the commission on August 19th. And we would move to have that exhibit entered into the evidence in this proceeding.
Exhibit 1, the direct testimony of Alex Cronauer is so marked as Walmart 1. And Mr. Naum, you do not have any settlement testimony, just a letter, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Any objection to Walmart Exhibit 1? Seeing none, that exhibit is moved into evidence. Thank you. That was very efficient. I appreciate the parties stipulating to the authenticity. We did not need to put anybody on the stand for that. Pursuant to the notice on October 7th, we do have a briefing schedule that we will execute with initial briefs due on November 1st and reply briefs due 2 weeks later on November 14th on the contested issues. The last item of the October 7th notice stated that each party choosing to brief the remaining issues shall, as an exhibit to its brief, file a consolidated copy of all admitted testimony and exhibits by its own witnesses that it considers relevant to those specific issues. So please be sure to do that in your initial briefs. With respect to page lengths of the briefs, have the parties conferred amongst yourselves, or should it be in the range of 30 to 40 pages? Ms. Curry.
We did not confer on that, but 30 to 40 pages does sound, it sounds doable.
Okay, any objections?
No objection.
Seeing none. Briefs, maximum page length on the briefs are 35 pages, both initial and reply. Are there any other matters that we need to address this morning? Seeing none, as a coda to this this hearing this morning, I do appreciate the parties working, sound like rather diligently, to reach a large partial settlement with respect to multi-year rate plan, which is the first that this commission has presided over, a settled multi-year rate plan. So I appreciate the efforts of all the parties at the table and Walmart for getting us to this point. We will look forward to your briefs next month, and we will issue a order the following month. Before I conclude, do my colleagues have any comments? Commissioner, once we go off the record. Thank you. With that, this hearing is adjourned. We are off the record. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make people aware that I did a little quiz out in the hall.
Hello?
Oh, that's better. Okay. Well, it's not on the record, so I guess it's not. That's not right. So,
We could hear you.
yeah. But you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
That was it. Thank you.
Since we're off the record, I'll just make a personal observation. I really do appreciate everybody's hard work in getting to the settlement. Of course, we'll evaluate it. But it worked out perfectly for me as a new commissioner. This was my first rate case, so I had to study as if we were going to go through it. And I just came back from rate school last week, so it was perfect. So everything made a little bit more sense, and the timing just worked out perfectly for me to be able to understand a little bit about what this is all about and then go get a little bit more formal education. So thank you. I really appreciate everyone's hard efforts.